Well, welcome to another episode of Coronacation. I'm Naomi White in Brisbane, Australia, and I'm delighted this morning to be joined by Jo Palmer in Wagga in New South Wales in Australia. How are you, Jo?
I'm well, thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Thanks for joining me. Jo, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do in the world?
Sure can. So I am the founder and managing director of Pointer Remote Roles. So we are a capacity building company, really. We work to build capacity in communities, businesses and individuals so that they can leverage remote work. So we do workshops, training, online self-paced courses that individuals or business owners can do. And we also have a recruitment arm as well. So you can employ people that work remotely from anywhere in Australia.
I would have thought you'd be coming into your own right about now,
Mm.
but we can come to that. And I understand you live on a farm?
Yes, so we live on a farm about half an hour south of Wagga in southern New South Wales. And so that was pretty much the segue into why I started the business in the first place, was because I realised that I had all these very clever friends who had left corporate careers and had married farmers, and that they were living in rural Australia and they weren't utilising the skills and experience that they had and had built in their career, and that a lot of them were working in jobs they were overqualified for or weren't working at all. And I thought, this is a ridiculous waste of resources, and that we as a society have spent a lot of time and money educating these, particularly women, but we've got men on the platform as well, and we're not taking advantage of their skills and experience. So I thought, if I can put them all in one spot and take them to employers, that it would really try and break down some of the barriers that can be an issue for people living in rural Australia and rural communities all over the world.
Yeah, it's such an important area. So we're in this global pandemic now,
Mm.
which is something none of us could have foreseen. So tell me, how has this affected you personally, this?
Personally, it's been interesting having the kids at home again all the time. Like, I think that I work remotely. I've been doing so for a long time. I've got a completely remote and distributed team across Australia. But I think that doing work this way, with running a household, running school, running the family, having a husband at home all the time, still doing the same thing, and he works for a multinational that's navigating this remote workspace for a lot of their team for the first time, has been definitely a challenge for me personally, our household. But I guess for me, as the business wise, I guess not a huge amount of people are doing much recruiting at the moment, because there's sort of that uncertainty and a little bit of hesitance to spend money and put people on when they're still unsure about what this looks like when we come out the other side. But where we've found a real change in our business has been a huge uptake on the transition work that we do and help businesses with. So a lot of people that are coming to us for the first time saying, we just haven't done this before. We haven't managed teams remotely. Our senior management level is not used to doing things. We don't have systems in place. And so that's where we've been spending a lot of time. And surprising to me, majority of that has actually been with government, so local and state government across the country, that they have got a lot of the things in place for maybe one person that's come back from that team from maternity leave or caring for someone elderly in the family, but they haven't had like policies and procedures and things put in place. And so they've come to us and said, oh, help. So that's where we've seen a real change in the business side of things.
Yeah, it's really interesting. A lot of organisations have been playing with work from home for quite some time. That's my understanding of things, and some do it better than others. But everybody working from home en masse has tested existing technology platforms. It's tested employers' ability to manage productivity remotely, privacy and confidentiality, creating a sense of connection. I would have thought those sorts of things or those areas are ones that is part of your business model and something that you're really familiar with. And
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. And I think that what has been really interesting is that when we do training, so we do a lot of video training with whole teams or senior leadership teams, that a lot of the time it just takes someone externally to say, you've got this, you've got things in place that you do internally. This is how we can help you look at what that looks like doing it digitally or virtually. So you've got your like your Monday stand-up meeting, or like your staff meeting where everyone comes into the lunchroom or into the conference room, and you do these bits and pieces. Okay, like obviously that now needs to be done via video call, but just having some communication etiquette things put in place, like even things just basics like make sure everyone's muted unless you're speaking, so that if the kids are losing the plot in the background, that's not interrupting everyone else, even though we as the parent become quite often tone deaf to the sound that's happening there. That can be really distracting and off-putting for other people in the meeting. So down to basics like that, through to transitioning them onto completely different project management software to really try and systemize things for accountability for their staff and team members. But another space that we've really found quite distressing but really important has been our clients that are dealing with domestic violence issues that come with their employees being forced to work from home. And so working with them to come up with almost like faux policies that need to be put in place for people that need to put them in place, i.e. like it might be your second screen needs to be on a video call in your work hours so that we can connect and so that we know that you're working. It's under that guise, but it's actually for the protection of their employee that's at home to be able to have them on camera. So things like that just have not been put to the forefront so much like this before. It's definitely not for us, and definitely more regularly than I would like to be thinking about. But it's been a really interesting thing and something that I'm trying to, whenever I get the opportunity, to voice, because it's something that just you quite often don't think about when you're employing or managing people in the office.
Oh my God, I wouldn't have thought of that either. That's really, really interesting, because the stats tell us that that's becoming, the longer this goes on, the more of an issue it will become.
Yeah.
I'm also interested, there's been a global workforce trend that's been flagged for quite some years about the gig economy and people wanting to work remotely. A lot of organisations have been mindful of that and have been planning for it. But I haven't actually seen it play out in reality, in the sense that I'm going to form a team of experts from around Australia, around the world. They're never physically here, but we will actually find a way to make them feel part of the team, and they will deliver their work on a different time zone or in a different location. It's been harder to implement that, and yet now we've had a situation forced on us that we couldn't have foreseen, where now everybody's working remotely. And certainly when I talk to colleagues and clients, what I hear at the moment is that there's been a really interesting byproduct of this. So where the head office of an organisation is, say, in Sydney, and there are smaller offices in, say, Brisbane, Melbourne, Perth, the smaller offices are always on video conference, but the Sydney guys are always in the same room. So the relationships aren't equal. And it's the same with companies that have an international presence. The Australian office might feel really tight, but the overseas offices, they can only take the relationship so far. What I'm hearing is that the relationships have never been better because everyone's remote.
Yeah.
So what I'm curious about from you, with your big vision, your big goal for your business, do you see this as an opportunity to really take this to the next level now? Thanks to
absolutely. And I think that, like you said, people have been talking about this for a long time. People dabble in it. I hate to say it, it's generally like this cutesy thing that you might do to hold on to a returning mother to work after maternity leave, or something that you do to really hold on to someone that you really want to keep in the business who may need to leave or move cities, or a trailing spouse. You just hit the nail on the head with, as far as that hasn't been smooth in the past, where there's always like the outsiders that are literally sitting on the screen up there. But those are even just some of the strategies that we talk to businesses about when they're transitioning, is that if only one person that is on that meeting list is not present, then everyone goes on a video call. No one goes into the conference room, and you just do this. And if it's just part of practice, and if anything, you also don't get people slacking off. The boss is watching people on the screen. Like, you can't sort of like start daydreaming and doing things. You're engaged, but what you then find is that the meetings are more efficient because you snap through things like this. Like, I know everyone's feeling a bit at the moment that it's death by Zoom or it's video call after video call while people are getting used to it. But once you get into the habit of this and you're a lot snappier with things, this becomes a really, really quick thing. And I think about, again, people that spend a lot of time, especially rurally based professionals who have head offices in major centres, they are on planes all the time. They are in airports all the time. The amount of downtime is just phenomenal, that this realistically has given organisations the confidence to dip their toe in because they've been forced to, but then they can take this. Of course, people will go back to the office, but I don't think, when people say, oh, when things go back to normal, I roll my eyes and say, you are living in another parallel universe if you think this will go back to normal. There will be a new normal. And I see that when we come out of it, I know this has been a really challenging time for a lot of individuals and a lot of organisations, but I think that when we come out the other side, we will see senior leadership, especially men, who have seen how hard it is to actually run a family at home and have had insights. And so I think that there will be marriages that come out the other side of this will be stronger, relationships with children will be stronger, but then relationships between colleagues of really being a lot more understanding of what life outside of work means because they've had this experience with it. But also that you can use flexibility and remote work as an attraction and retention strategy to really get amazing talent into your business. And I think that moving forward, your physical location will not determine the work that you can do. And for businesses, it won't determine the talent that you can attract. You're not going to be paying enormous relocation fees to try and attract someone to your head office. And it means, for me, where I'm the most passionate about it, is means that like we can be building capacity in communities in rural areas to then attract people to move there. So someone that may in the past, pre-COVID, have been spending 2 hours each way on a train commuting into a CBD where they're not client facing. They've just had 3 to 6 months of doing this at home. And then their boss says, okay, you're back in here 5 days a week. I just don't think that that is going to be a sustainable way to keep your employees. I think even that person will be way more likely to be then negotiating, like, can I at least work from home 2 days a week? And we do that hybrid model. Or do you know what? I have been spending 4 hours each day on a train to come in and do a job that I can quite obviously do from anywhere. This mortgage is killing us. We want to move west to a town where we can buy a house on a 1/4 acre block for 1/3 of the price, and we can have some quality of life, and I can still do an amazing job for you. I've already proved that I can do it in a global pandemic. And for me, what that means for rural Australia is just incredible. The fact that we will be able to have people relocate here, we will be able to retain people living here, people will be able to be working in jobs that they're qualified for. Like, I just see this as the most enormous game changer for rural communities here, but also all over Australia. But all over the world, sorry. But even for the people that don't want to be sitting in a commute, to not have to do that anymore is next level.
Absolutely. I love a game changer. I love it. I think you're right there. So lastly, what advice would you give to others then, or what perspective can you share on all of this?
Something I've been talking to a lot of, especially when I've been dealing with senior leadership teams, has been talking about that concept of running a calm company or a calm organisation. And I've read this fabulous book called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work, which is written by a guy called Jason Fried, who's one of the co-founders of a project management software tool called Basecamp that we use actually for all of our internal communications here at Pointer. And it just talks about this whole concept of, literally, it doesn't have to be crazy at work, that if you have this really calm attitude to running your business, to managing your people, that just translates into how you deal with customers, how you get repeat customer and things. And so I know that it's been a really crazy few months for a lot of people, but I think going into all of these changes and things that you're putting in with like a calm hat on, that the impact that has, and that especially when you're managing people, they are looking for leadership and they're looking for people to see calm. Like I always think about when I'm on a plane, I'm a horrible flyer. And whenever I'm on a plane, I like watch the flight attendant. And if they're calm, I'm calm. If the flight attendant's freaking out, then I start getting really panicked because they do this every day and they're much better at staying calm in a turbulent situation, literally. So I think that that's been something that I've been talking to a lot of businesses about, is that staying calm. Like no one ever stays calm when you tell them to stay calm, but having that calm attitude to how you're managing people has been a really big takeaway for me.
Love it. So I think the goal out of all of this is we go back to having calm organisations.
Yeah, we'll go back to, or try moving forward to have a calm organisation.
Going back, because there is no, we don't want to go back. Anyway, Jo, that's been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. It's such an interesting conversation, and I look forward to chatting to you soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.